Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad. This is my channel Animate Orange, and this week in 3D metal model news. Starting as usual with Fascinations, we have 3 different models that have been listed as coming soon for a while now. They have now moved over to the what's due side of things. They are available. I've checked on Toys to see if they are actually for sale. And we have, of the 3 that are now for sale, it is the Iconics Hogwarts Express, which is $32.95 on Toys. We have the Insight Mars Lander for $12.95. That is now available. And we have the Silver Targaryen Sigil for $18.95. So if you're wanting to get the Targaryen Sigil, you're not too worried about color, and you don't want to bother with the Barnes & Noble exclusive, the silver one is now for sale on Toys and probably will be showing up in other places very soon. And it appears that they moved those things over to make more room for some models in the coming soon area that I have already talked about a couple of times, and that is the 6 Ford models that were mentioned previous. So we now have pictures from Metal Earth on their actual website for the 1925 Ford Model T Runabout, the 1937 Ford Pickup, the 1932 Ford Coupe, the 1931 Ford Model A, the 1910 Ford Model T, and the 1908 Ford Model T Dark Green, which they have that listed in parentheses. I noticed that all of these models are listed as challenging models, which is a little bit of a surprise. They are all in color. There's some variations. Some of them have, well, they have different colors on them. They're a little bit varied. One of them, I think there was the truck that has some wording on it, like it was used for a business, which is kind of a neat little feature. The 1908 Ford Model T, from what I understand, is supposed to be basically the same as the silver Model T that already is out there, just colored in. But I find it interesting that the regular silver Model T that's been around for a while is listed as moderate, whereas this new one with color is listed as challenging. So I don't know if they've increased the listing to challenging because of the possibility of scratching the paint, or if there is actually a difference in there that is not immediately evident. But right now they just have one picture up and model numbers and some very basic details. As time goes on, hopefully they will add more pictures and we'll have a little more information about what's going on with those models. They look very cool. I'm very excited to get them. Kind of sad that they're going to be coming out during the winter time or the fall time, because those would be a lot of fun to build those models and take them to some car shows and have them taking pictures with the real thing if you can find it. And being that the weather is changing, the car shows are pretty much wrapping up at this point. Looking around at AliExpress and Crazy Toys and Peace Cool and all the other websites, I don't really see anything new this week. It's pretty much just everything that's happening with Fascinations, so that's about it for 3D metal model news this week. However, that brings us to the question of the week time. And last week's question of the week, I kind of left it open. I asked you, the viewer, if there were any questions you wanted to ask me, and I received a few responses. For this week, I'm going to answer one of those questions. The question that I have chosen for this week is from Walter J. Schuler. And Walter asked, for this week's question, I'd be interested in knowing your top 3 favorite models and your top 3 unfavorite models, either that you've built or you just dislike. Now, what is my favorite or least favorite model is a question that comes up from time to time, and I'm never fond of picking favorites, but as far as top 3s and bottom 3s, that's kind of a first. I've built so many models that it's hard to remember them all, and I don't want to say that some of the models are forgettable, but some of them kind of are. You know, there were, and this is not a bad thing, it's kind of a good thing that they were an easy, quick little build. There's tons of little architectural builds that were just quick and easy, and they're fun to display and look at, but there's not a lot to talk about the build. That's kind of a good thing. Sometimes it's good to have a nice, relaxing, easy build. But as far as picking out the top 3 and bottom 3, I spent a moment last night looking over my wall of models, trying to decide which ones I'm going to pick. And I'm going to start with the bottom 3. And Justin, this will probably not come as a big surprise to you, one of the models that is in this list. But top 3, no necessarily particular order. We have the Halo Guardian. Usually when somebody asks me what's my least favorite model, I usually go with the Halo Guardian. Maybe I give it a little bit too much hate. It was a fun and interesting and different build in the very beginning. And I kind of enjoyed it. But once I got towards the end, doing that top part, that head part, there were some tabs that just did not want to come together, and they were a real fight and a real struggle. And this is all coming at the very end of the model that you really don't want to be fiddling with any more than you have to, because of that delicate spine that just looks like it's going to wobble and break. And that really, really turned my opinion of it kind of upside down. It was so frustrating, so aggravating, that I've had people who have gotten the model because it was a model that was released as an extra with the game, and there's been some question of the wisdom of that, because a lot of people get this game and get this model and go, I don't know anything about this. It's not a model to start with, and it breaks easy. So there's probably a lot of people that broke it, trashed it, and that was that. But there were a few people that were going to build this model and asked if I would build it for them, and I just flat told them no, because I never wanted to experience that again. I've kind of held on to that dislike and hate of that model for a long time, but that's one of the ones that definitely comes to mind. If I'm going to make a top 3 list, that's one of them. There's another Halo model that I dislike, and that would be the Scorpion, the little tank-like. It's a neat looking model once it's built, but there's some parts in that turret that were just an absolute pain in the butt, and I ended up breaking a tab, and I think a lot of people do. It's such an unusual and odd shape, it's hard to see it and understand it and figure it out without giving yourself a lot of grief, and I did. The last of the top 3, certainly not the least, would be the Beretta. And I'm not exactly sure who to say makes it. It's not a Metal Earth model. I want to say it's probably made by HK, and possibly a few other makers out there as well make the Beretta model. It is a complete pain to build, and I've not met one person yet, or not talked to one person yet, that would say otherwise. Top 3 models, I would have to go with one of them, again, no particular order. One of them would have to be Megatron. The MU Megatron was an amazing build. It really opened my mind to the different ways that things could be put together. The layers and complexity of some of the parts of Megatron just were fantastic. And I really enjoyed that build. It was long, it was challenging, and I ended up with this huge, awesome model that towers over most everything else that I've got, and I really enjoyed that model. The other MU Transformers models are also awesome, but Megatron really stands out to me, although it's one of the only 3 that I've built. The other 2 are both Iconics models, and it would be kind of a tie between the Yamato and the Missouri. I really enjoyed both of those builds. I really enjoyed the size of them. I really enjoyed the detail of them. The Yamato adds color, which takes it to a little bit of a new level. I don't want to be unfair against the Missouri, though, because it was still an awesome build. There was a couple of frustrating parts in the upper decks that I'm not fond of, but overall, I really loved both of those builds. I love displaying those builds. I love looking at those builds. They're very sizable. There's a lot of work that goes into them, and they're absolutely worth it. That being said, it was tough to pick some favorites, because I have a lot of fond memories of things like the Iron Man build and some of the Star Wars builds, the in-color Millennium Falcon from the Solo movie, though I know a lot of people aren't really fond of that movie. I really enjoyed that build. It's not that complicated. It's simple and clean. I really enjoyed it. There are a lot of other, I guess you could say, honorable mentions when it comes to favorite models. But the top 3, I'd have to say today, because this opinion may change next week, Megatron, and the Iconics Yamato and Missouri. Next week, I will address another question that has been asked for me. There were more than one left on that response. And if you have some questions that you would like to see me answer, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I will leave it at that for this week. I do also want to thank my Patreon supporters again for continuing to support this channel to make these videos possible. Thank you very much. I do want to say to anyone who's made a request, I have a list of requests. I am working towards addressing all of them. It's just taking time, because life is like that. I've spent a lot of time working on my most current build, and that is the Iconics Western Star 4900 logging truck. That is an amazing build right there, and if I were asked this question of top 3s next week, that might be in it. But I'm not quite done with it yet, because it's really taken a lot of time, but it's an Iconics model that I am amazingly impressed with. If you've got some requests, I do take requests. I add them to the list, and I've got a few that I'm still working on getting knocked out. So I just wanted to put that out there. I haven't forgotten about them. I've got a list, and I'm still working towards that. Until next week, thank you for watching, and keep on keeping on.